Hi, ladies. It's Johnny here from Manspeak. It's Monday night, 8:30 p.m. And tonight is, of course, Man Speak Live in an interview with a man. And I'm lucky enough to be speaking to a gentleman all the way from Germany, Will Aylward. And I got the name right, so that's good. Basically, a quick background with Will is, Will's 26, and he's an Englishman who, like I said, currently lives in Germany. And Will's basically he's a coach and a teacher and writer, and he basically just helps people reconnect with their self confidence and creates a new exciting life. What I'm very interested in talking to Will about tonight is Will actually has come through a long distance relationship. So that's definitely something that we'll be definitely chatting about tonight. And I'm definitely curious around that type of subject. I know there's been a few ladies on the page who have asked about this previously. I've spoken about it, but I think coming from someone else who's actually been in it is going to be fantastic. So also, just quickly too, like I say about every time on a Man Speak interviews, just kind of respect the man who's actually being interviewed. He's given up his time for here as well, coming from a very vulnerable state with the questions. If you've got any questions during the interview, please put them on. Definitely be here to answer them, and when we get a chance, we will actually answer them during the interview or towards the end. So I just thought those ground rules to start, but to no further ado, here's Will. So thanks for joining us tonight, mate.
Johnny, thank you so much. Yeah, really excited to be here. We've had it sort of penciled in the diary for a couple of weeks,
Yeah, it's been
and yeah, I've been eagerly looking forward to it. So no, good
awesome.
to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. So just like I said at the start, I've touched a little bit about it. So just kind of introduce yourself to ladies and let them know your background.
Sure. So my background. So as you say, 26 year old, and living in Germany. Never planned to sort of end up living in Germany or actually end up abroad. But it's funny how sort of life sort of works out, and I think we all have a certain path. I've been living here for 2 years. Work for myself, as you said. I'm a coach. I'm a teacher. I do a bit of writing as well, sort of blogging for various websites. And yeah, I'm just massively into personal development. I'm one of these people who's always doing some sort of course. I love to read. I love people. So coaching, it helps to be a coach, doesn't it, when you like people?
Yes.
Um, so it's yeah, I just love personal development, and it's been a journey. Like you'll hear as I sort of share my sort of story. The last 5 years have been very sort of up and down. How I sort of ended up in Germany was interesting. Interesting.
So you've like recently from England. So you've been living there for 5 years now. So I suppose like tonight we're going to talk about the long distance relationship background of it all. So tell us about how that all started with your long distance relationship.
Sure. So it was about 4 years ago, and I was backpacking in New Zealand. I had a bit of a rough start in my early 20s, made some very bad decisions, and being British, I like a beer, and I sort of got a little bit carried away with the nightlife, the party life. I was a bit of a lad, and I sort of got swept up in this cycle of sort of binge drinking and smoking. And wasn't in a good place. Sort of took its turn on me. I ended up experiencing anxiety, which for me was really odd because sort of growing up, always sort of reasonably confident, to then suddenly be in a toilet in a nightclub having a panic attack was like, quite scary. And with that, I got into some debt. I was in debt with sort of payday loans. So part of this, part of this sort of illusion of me, being this sort of this lad, really wasn't me. I'm actually quite an introvert. I love people, but it was all an act. I was sort of going out and putting on this show, making out I was really successful when I really wasn't. I had all this money when I really didn't. I was sort of borrowing from various people and sites. So yeah, I sort of woke up one day and made a decision that I have to do something pretty big in order to sort of take ownership of my life. I'm a massive Lord of the Rings fan. Like, grew up watching the films, and for me, it's like this is what I picture heaven to be like. It's just the Shire. So, so I sort of said to myself, why don't I go to the land of the hobbits? Why don't I go to New Zealand? So as soon as I sort of got out of debt, I was in about £2,000 debt at the time, which at 21 wasn't a good place to be in. Managed to book a one-way flight. And I took off to New Zealand, and just the most incredible place. Just did me so much good, just to sort of take a step back and really, as cliche as it sounds, sort of find myself, but
Yeah.
maybe not find myself, but just become more self-aware. Like, what were my strengths? What was I here to do? And I just all these different jobs. I worked on farms, I worked in pubs, but towards the end of the trip, I was working in a tiny little place called Hamner Springs, and it was really odd because as soon as I arrived in New Zealand, I said to myself, I have to go to Hamner Springs. I didn't know why, but I saw it on the map. I saw a few pictures, and you just get a gut feeling like something's waiting for me there. I didn't know what, but I made it the very last stop. So I remember I hitchhiked halfway across the South Island to get to Hamner Springs. I virtually had no money. I think I owed the bank $10, so I was still sort of learning the value of money and responsibility while I was there. But I arrived, and all was good, and managed to find a job in a brewery bar. And yeah, I was working behind the bar, and there was a rather gorgeous young lady who was sort of working on the floor. And yeah, she sort of, when you sort of imagine meeting someone, and it's like in the films, you sort of see them and you sort of know. It was a bit different. Like, I didn't really notice her. Like, I sort of noticed her in over a period of a couple of days. But I became curious because she used to like write the drinks and give it to me at the bar, and everyone else used to write their full name, and she used to write just the letters YV. So I was like, who is this? Like, who does she think she is, writing just YV? Like, write your name. And it was just like this mysterious, and she wasn't very chatty. She wasn't particularly friendly in the beginning. And I thought, who is this girl? But there's something about her. And I sort of asked a mutual friend of ours and said, who's this girl? And she was French. The girl I asked, and she said, her name is Yvonne, and she's from Germany. And I was like, okay. And that was it. And that's how I met Yvonne, who I now live with here in Germany. And we met, and we sort of dated in New Zealand. We had only about 4 weeks together in New Zealand. And then after that, it was long distance for a very long time before we sort of bit the bullet and moved together.
So in that 4 weeks that you were like, I suppose, dating, when did you kind of know that it was going to last longer than 4 weeks?
I think it was our second date. So the first date, I'm very old fashioned. Like, my parents are great. I come from a family where, manners were really, really important. And I was sort of taught that, you treat everyone with respect, especially women. So I'm a bit of a romantic. I'm not a great cook, but I sort of said, come over to my place, and I'll cook you a curry. What's that? Sorry?
That makes both of us.
Yes, good. It's important, right? It's important. I think, food, it's just a nice gesture. Like, if you're helping someone to stay alive via food, it sends the message, I care about you. Exactly. So I cooked for her, and I thought the date went really, really well. So probably for me, I sort of half knew on the first date. Funnily enough, for her, at the end of the first date, she went away to her friends and said, no, nothing there, no spark. Will's a nice guy, but I'm not interested. I was completely overconfident and went to my friends and said, yeah, she likes me, I like her. I'm going to ask her out on a second date.
What gave you was there any signs that you saw during that date and you thought, yep, she likes me? Did you pick up on anything that happened? Like body language, or did you kiss her at the end or something? Or
no, it was, the first date was very it was looking back, it's funny. It's almost like teenagers. I was really nervous. This was like the first proper date I'd had in years. So I'd call myself hopelessly single before New Zealand.
Yeah.
I, you know, yeah, for a long time, no women. So for me, I had this real sort of fear. So I actually remember sitting on a different sofa. So I was working at a forest camp, and there was a big sort of living area where all the sort of volunteers lived, and
Yeah.
there was two sofas. And I said, "Oh, should we watch a film?" And I purposely sat on a different sofa to her. I was really scared just to sort of be sort of close to her. So yeah, I think it was halfway through a film. We were watching a film called The Whale Rider, really good film. And I think I sort of moved over to her, and she sort of, yeah, she sort of accepted it. You know, if she was a bit like, oh, okay, when I did the old fashioned yawn and arm, which I think I did. I think I did. I hope I did. And then yeah, so I sort of knew, I had suspicions in the first date. It's just, yeah, like you say, body language. You sort of get a bit of a look, and I like to make anybody laugh, but I like to make women laugh. I see that as a sign that, you know, there's maybe a spark. And she was laughing at my jokes, and I didn't think they were all pity laughter. But it was the second date, and I remember it really well. So like I said, she wasn't interested at the end of the first date, where I was like, yeah, I think she's really cool. I've got a good feeling. And we were both ill. We were both ill at work, and the next day I saw that she had a day off. So I said to myself, I have to think of a way to, to sort of, you know, get a second date. So I sort of went up to her and said, "Oh, hi, Yvonne. You're not ill because of the curry, are you?" She said, "No, I've got the flu." And I said, "Yeah, me too. There's something going around at the moment." And I said, "Hey, you're off tomorrow. You're going to be ill. I'm going to be ill. We might as well just be ill together. We might as well just, you know, save power because we're both going to be watching films. We might as well just get together." So we did, and she said, "Fine, come to my place. Be here for 2:00." And I sort of walked up to the place where she was staying. Really, really big hill. But I got to this really nice house where she was living at the time, and yeah, we spent the whole day. Like I arrived at 2 in the afternoon, like early afternoon, and I left at 10 the next morning. We watched films. I think we watched 4 films. We watched Harry Potter. We watched a few other ones. But ended up staying the night, and just, yeah, really felt this connection. I was on top of the world. I was the happiest guy in Hamner Springs when I sort of walked back the next morning, smiling like the Cheshire Cat, and just feeling loved and, you know, loving for the first time in a really long time. And that was really nice morning. And I sort of knew that this was, something special. This wasn't sort of a couple of week thing.
Yeah. So then so then the 4 weeks comes along, and obviously, did you go? You went back to England, and then Von went back to Germany.
Yeah, it worked out. It worked out really funny. So Yvonne was heading back to Germany for a wedding, so she only had 2 weeks back in Germany before she was going back to New Zealand.
Yeah.
I was going back for good, and it was too late for me to sort of change my plans.
Yeah.
But we had a period of 2 days. Pardon me. We had 2 days where we were both in Europe. So it happened that I flew back after being away from home for 1 year. I flew back to England, jet lagged, tired, saw my family, and the very next day I caught a flight to Germany. So it was almost like, "Hi everyone, I'm back. I've met a girl. I'm going to Germany for the weekend." And they were like, "Who's this girl? We haven't seen anything." My mother was like, "You've been away for a year. Come on, what are you doing?" So it was odd. It was all very quick, but just sort of happened. It didn't feel rushed. So I flew over to Germany for the first time. That I'd never been to Germany, and I remember sort of flying in, seeing the forest, and feeling like, wow, you know, I'm actually here. This is where this girl's from. Still not really knowing her, not really having an idea of who she really was, but just having this really good connection. And I think we had 2 or 3 days together there. And I met her family, I met her friends, which was interesting because at the time I didn't speak a word of German. So there was just lots of smiling and nodding and yeah, trying to make people, you know, get the impression I'm a nice guy. Yeah. And yeah, we had sort of those 3 days together in Germany before I went back to England, and then she went back to New Zealand. From that point, it was Oh, let me think. Between this was September till the following April. So yeah, 8 months. With 8 months between 8 months between England and New Zealand, and that was tough. That was very tough.
So when after that weekend you went back to England, so that's when the 20 months started. So when did you actually get to see her
Mm.
face to face again? Was that the 8 months?
I wish. No, it was. It was. Oh yes, sorry. Yes, it was the 8 months. It was the 8 months. So she was in New Zealand,
Wow.
and then she came back for my birthday. So this was the following March. And yeah, we picked her up. My mum. I finished work early on the Friday, and my mum said, "Oh, we'll drive you to the airport." And yeah, we sort of saw her at the airport, and it was odd. It was really odd because it was almost someone like I'd had got to know a little bit,
Yeah.
and then we sort of drifted apart. But we stayed in touch the whole time over those 8 months. We spoke every day. We Skyped several times a week.
Yeah.
But it still was just like a screen, so it wasn't a real
Yeah.
sort
Not.
of
Yeah.
not a real relationship. But we got to know each other really well in this time. So it was a weird thing. It's almost like having a pen friend. Remember the days of pen friends? You used to sort of write to people.
Yeah.
It's almost like that. It's someone who I really trusted, somebody who I really felt I knew, but hadn't spent a lot of time physically with. So it was a weird moment. But yes, it was 8 months before we sort of saw each other again.
So did you two make that commitment? Was there a stage where you both committed to it and you said, "Look, this is what we're going to start. We're going to work on keeping a relationship." Did you both? At what stage did you both agree to that?
Good question. Good question. It was pretty early on in the sort of long distance. So while she was back in New Zealand,
Yeah.
um, about sort of 4 weeks in, I had a bit of a wobble. I was just sort of, I just got back to England. It felt like I'd just returned back to reality.
Yeah.
Um, and I remember sort of having a chat with my best friend, and I said, I don't know if this is going to work. I don't really know this. I don't really know this girl very well. We've got this amazing connection, but yeah. So I sort of didn't throw in the towel. Yvonne may, Yvonne still sees it differently now, but
Yeah.
I sort of sent a message and said, look, we have to talk, and we Skype, and we had a Skype, and it was horrible. She was crying, and I said like, I'm not ending it. I'm just saying, can we slow things down? Because there was a lot of pressure. We were both waking up really early doing Skyping,
Yeah.
and it was tough, and it was tough for her as well. But I was at that time a little bit pessimistic, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I sort of voiced that. I voiced it. I didn't want to sort of keep it to myself. But actually, it made us stronger. I sort of realised after that conversation, we still stayed in touch, and I sort of realised that yeah, I need to have faith that this is going to work. I can't say, oh, let's cool things down. It really was sort of like, well, we're doing this. We're going to try and we'll do our best to make this work. Or we sort of leave it. There was that sort of ultimatum. I think we both sensed. And yeah, luckily we sort of made it work.
What was one of the biggest challenges, I suppose, in that first 8 months from seeing, like you said, in that first 8 months, it wasn't 3D, was it? It was 2D. You were just seeing someone in a screen. So
Yeah.
what were some of the challenges that you faced, and how did you both overcome that?
Yeah, really good question. Really good question. I think one of the biggest thing was a time difference, just sort of making time for each other. And I think that's probably the same for any relationship. Like even now that we live with each other, we still have to make time for each other because I run a business full time. I work sort of 7 days a week. She has a very busy job. So she works in finance. And yeah, we still have to sort of make time for each other. So we have like a regular Friday date night, which is like non-negotiable. I don't go out for beers with the boys on that night. She doesn't see sort of her friends on the Friday. That's our time. There
Yeah.
are exceptions, but normally that's the thing. So I think that was the biggest thing, was just making that time. But we organised it pretty well. Um, being German, Yvonne's very organised. She's very efficient. So we were like, we were sort of like scheduling Skype calls, days in advance. So we always knew when we were going to speak to each other. I think that was the biggest thing. Maybe that was the biggest fear for me, was just not speaking and sort of losing that spark. And just, speaking on Skype one day and just realizing that thing's not there. But we handled it really well. We committed to, seeing each other on a sort of regular basis. But yeah, that's probably the hardest thing. And also just, wanting her to be with me in England when there was like family parties or friends' birthdays. It was always like, oh, how's Yvonne? People sort of knew I was in a relationship, which was, some people got, some people didn't, and they're like, oh, how does that work? If you're over there, and so there was lots of opportunities where I would have liked naturally for her to be sort of with me in England. So that was probably another challenge, and also just explaining to people as well. So are you with someone? And it's like, well, yeah, I am. Okay, what do they do? Okay, well, she's actually on the other side of the world. Okay, how did you meet her? Then you're telling a story, and you start finding yourself repeating yourself. Well, we see each other every couple of days, and she's coming back to Europe, and so that was another sort of challenge, was just having to repeat to people. Oh yeah, I'm with someone, but so lots of challenges,
And like you said, 20 months. So was that you saw each other the 8 months. After you saw each other in that 8-month period, she came over to England and she went back. Did you just okay, this has got to happen in X amount of time, or did you have a plan set in place, have an end date or end time where you thought we've got to do this in 12 months or 6 months or something?
Sure.
Like that?
Sure. It was odd. It was odd. We didn't really have a plan. We sort of went with the flow. So over that time before I actually moved to Germany, every month, at least once a month, I was coming here to Germany. I was working in a school at a time. I was like a teaching assistant. So I had lots of holidays, which was great. So I could come over here for sort of weeks and weekends. So I've gone off track there. Yeah, so we didn't really have a plan. Within that time, we sort of went with the flow. Again, we always had that next trip booked. So every time we were together, it was always like, right, well, let's book the next flight. So it's almost like we had these dominoes of, yep, well, you're here now. Next time you're going to be here. I'm coming to yours for your mum's birthday in 3 months. So we always had this sort of these dominoes in place, so we knew where it was going. But I sort of said,
which is important. Which is important in a day, isn't it? We'll be both on the same wave, don't you? Because then you're going, well, what's happening here? If you're both, thinking differently, then it would be tough. And I think that would be the same even if you're together in a relationship face to face.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think So we sort of had short-term plans. This is interesting. It was like the short-term plans we had. The long-term plan, we almost left it to fate. I think we had a conversation of like, well, the circumstances in which we met worked out well, for whatever reason. And I think something will come along. I said something will come along when we know it's the right time. And it did. And it was almost sort of spooky how it sort of happened. But yeah, things fell into place and we sort of had a sign that, okay, maybe we should make it happen here. So it's always, does she come to England? Do I come to Germany? But it worked out all right.
What advice would you give people going through a long distance relationship, actually having that end road? Do you think not planning something? Do you think just letting the flow going and waiting for like a sign or something to tell you that? Do you feel that there's a lot of pressure and expectations if you do have a set date, time? What's your thoughts about that?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think for me it was. Yeah, I think if we had sat down and say, right, in sort of 12 months or within 18 months, we're going to have something sorted out, sort of set in stone, I think, you're right. The word pressure comes to mind. There would have been this sort of expectation of making it happen Whereas I think, and this just in life in general, we have to sort of go with the flow. I think there's definitely a time where we have to take action and we have to be bold, but there's definitely a time where we have to sort of just be adaptable and just sort of go with the flow, see what happens. And it just so happened that Yvonne wasn't happy with her work, neither was I. But then sort of things fell into place and we could almost see how pieces of the puzzle would fit together. So I think there's definitely a degree of patience. Because I think there definitely could have been a wrong time. I think if I moved here too soon, maybe I wouldn't have ended up staying here, or if I moved here too late. But I think it's just, and I say this a lot, just listen to your gut. I think we've got this amazing intuition system which just knows, and I think we almost just have to wait for until the time is right. And I think my gut definitely on the day I decided to move here was like, okay, this is it. This feels right. Whereas before it was not quite there yet, a little bit more patient. We've got to wait for the universe or whatever to sort of put things in place. But so listen to your gut. That would be the main piece of advice.
Advice to give. And how did it feel when it finally happened? When you finally did move to Germany and it was all happening? Like, what were some of the feelings that were coming through for you?
Yeah, it was excitement. There's definitely this excitement. I love travel. I loved living abroad in New Zealand, and I look forward to really experiencing the German culture. I loved all the trips I was here. I always felt very at home. The German culture is just everything you learn, especially being British because of the wars. You learn the Germans they're evil. You learn all these stuff because in history in England you just learn how great British Commonwealth was and how we're the heroes, which is all rubbish. But anyway, that's another topic. But I loved it. German people, they're really family friendly. There's always live music. There's a real sense of community. It's very safe. It's very clean. So I really look forward to that. So I think excitement was the biggest emotion. There definitely was this this fear of is this going to work? There was definitely this voice of, will it work? Will it work? But I think it's, my levels of trust were sort of greater than that level of fear, that level of doubt.
Yeah.
But it was a mix. It was a mix, and it was very quick from the moment I sort of decided that yes, I'm coming to Germany, to actually being here was about 12 weeks. So when I did move here, it was very makeshift. I had one suitcase and one rucksack. So I didn't come with much. Just myself, a couple of pairs of clean underpants, a laptop, and a saucepan. I think I've contributed something towards the house. So it was very quick. It was very quick, but it felt right. Do you know what I mean? It felt right.
You trusted your gut.
Yes, absolutely.
So I suppose if I just move back a bit, when you were in England, like how long were you single for before you met Yvonne? Like were you single for a while, or what was the history before Yvonne and before New Zealand?
Yeah, so I was single for about a year and a half. I think a year and a half or maybe 2 years.
Yeah.
But my sort of relationship history, I was 15, like sort of childhood romance, together for I think 2.5, 3 years.
Yeah.
And that sort of heartbreak at 17 and a half, that really sort of knocked my confidence. So that took me, I sort of dated afterwards, but hopelessly. It was almost like I wasn't in a good place. I wasn't in a good place to be in a relationship. So I did have a couple of sort of very, very brief relationships with it, which ended after about 2, 3 months. And again, each of those sort of shorter relationships and those breakups again sort of knocked my confidence. So I sort of got progressively worse at dating, progressively worse at being in a relationship. And then, I was in a sort of long, I think about 4-month relationship when I was about 20. I was about 20.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I was single for about a year and a half before I took off to New Zealand, which I think was one of the reasons because I got in my head, oh, English girls are like this. It was totally me. It was totally me projecting my insecurities of just, yeah, I had confidence issues. I had sort of self-love issues. So I needed to, yeah, sort of connect with myself and get myself in a good place, which I think happened through being in New Zealand. I think a lot of sort of healing went on, a lot of responsibility was assumed whilst in New Zealand. Which, yeah, obviously the day that I met Yvonne, it was meant to be. I was in a better place, maybe not a perfect place, but in a better place.
What was the one difference with Yvonne than the other women? What was the one thing that made it different, knowing that she was potentially going to be someone that you want to be with compared to everyone else that you had previously?
Oh, it's a $1 million question, and I think Yvonne would be tuning in definitely for this part of the interview.
No, just from you, what did you feel as a man? What did you feel as a man? I suppose
Yeah.
with this one, you thought, well, this one feels different because
Mm,
something
yeah.
connected. What was that? What was the difference?
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah,
In all seriousness, it's safety. It was actually safety, which is interesting. I haven't really thought about this before. Um, yeah, it was a real feeling of sort of safety, and just this is interesting. I felt that I could be myself. I've never thought of this before, but I really felt that I could be myself without being judged and feeling that, yeah, I could be loved just for being me. Whereas before, when I was sort of not messed up, but when I wasn't complete, when I had my anxiety and my debt and my sort of drinking, um, I was disconnected with who I really was. There's all these masks I was wearing, um, and yeah, I think this is really interesting for me to sort of process. I think it was, yeah, I sort of knew deep down that these people, if they did love me or if they were interested, it wasn't really the real me. So I knew deep down it wouldn't work.
yeah,
Whereas with Yvonne, there was this real feeling of safety and security that I could totally be myself, like warts and all. Um, my dodgy cooking and everything, and that was okay. And there was this this space to express, and I think it was mutual as well. Like very soon on, I think the first night we almost stayed up the whole night. Not what you're thinking. Afterwards, we spoke. So we slept with each other that night. But afterwards, we just, yeah, poured our hearts out and just spoke about, how we've been hurt, our last relationships, just incredibly open. It was a really weird experience. It was very, um, yeah, very surreal. Sort of looking back, just pouring our hearts out and opening up and saying, I've done this, and it just felt safe. It just felt really, really safe.
yeah. I suppose that would have been a big key too for that 20 months or so, because you felt safe and you felt non-judged and you could open up. That would have been a big thing during that 20 months. Every time we got on the phone, on Skype, you could just speak.
Yeah.
There was no, and I suppose I spoke to you about this before that we got on live. It's about men being vulnerable, and
Mm.
that I suppose a lot of women out there. I know I get a lot of questions that they just want their man to open up. They just want their man to talk. They just want I don't know what's like there in Germany or in England, but
Mm.
in Australia, it's all about years and years. Men, it's all about toughen up and don't show your feelings.
Man up, bro. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, just
It's
don't cry, don't do this, don't do that. I think we're building such a belief up. These men have built that belief up. It's just like I shouldn't be opening up,
mm,
but I think when you do meet that person that you can open up to, you become it's
mm.
uncomfortable, but it's unfamiliar. But I think guys these days, it's more acceptable for a guy to do that to the
Yeah,
right
yeah,
person.
yes. Yeah, you're right. It's just exactly the same in England. Exactly the same in England. And I think back to when I was sort of, in my sort of beginning days, I was part of a group of bravado. It's all pranks. It's all I can drink faster. I can drink more. I can do this. Which I played the role bloody well. I could do it. I'd drink 12 pints a night. I chain smoke 20. I'd go up to women and speak. But that wasn't me. And I think it's sad because absolutely there's this massive culture of laddish culture and not showing your feelings, and if you do, it makes you feminine or makes you weak. But you're right, that vulnerability is so important, and I think I don't know. I think it comes from childhood, as do a lot of things. I was a couple of months ago just in the city, and this little boy fell over, and he'd hurt himself. And his mum, with her best intentions, of course, was, "Come on, don't cry. You're all right. Come on, don't cry." And of course, we do this with women, children as well. But I looked at this little boy here, and I was just like, what message is he learning?
Yeah.
He's learning that if he feels like crying, he shouldn't.
Yeah.
And of course, maybe we carry this on into later life. And this goes for women as well, of course. But I think with men as well, I think we sort of take that message to heart. If you look at the role models that we have, or if you just think of the word masculinity, what do you think of? You think of bravado, you think of strength, you think of shutting off our emotions.
Yeah.
But I think there's definitely been a shift. There's definitely a shift.
Yeah, definitely.
I think men slowly are sort of coming out of our caves and sort of saying how we feel. I think there's still a lot of work. There's definitely a lot of work to go, but I think it's happening in the right direction. I think mental health's a great openness. I know a lot of people, I've got a lot of great friends back in London who have had mental health problems, and again, they feel they couldn't speak, not just to women, but just to anyone, not being able to speak to their family members, and end up having breakdowns in their early 20s. But now these guys are doing some great work, and they're sort of encouraging men to open up and to talk about their feelings, which, you're right, just seems so unfamiliar. Like, talk about feelings? Like, men don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely comes from beliefs, doesn't it? I think the more it shifts now, the next generation will be like, well, it's okay to talk about it. And, I suppose that's what it's all about. Just, men being able to open up and for women to understand men in the end. But I definitely think it's a shift that's happening. But I suppose for yourself being in that long distance relationship, that would have been a big factor. Do you know what I mean? Because opening up and
yeah. I think it had.
What's a couple of things that you don't take for granted now that you're together, like face to face and see each other? What's some of the things that you think, you don't take for granted, knowing that you weren't seeing each other a lot in that 20 months?
Good question.
I like the date thing. I think the date thing's a great thing. I think just that, just blocking that time out each week, I think that's fantastic. But
it's important to make time. It's important to make time because life happens. You've got two different personalities, two different sets of priorities. Often, other things you don't take for granted. I'm not sure actually.
I spoke to one person recently, about being in a long distance relationship, and they said the one thing that they don't take for granted, that from now to and these weren't 20 months, but one thing they valued being together finally was being able to wake up together next to each other every morning. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
That's something that's maybe so simple, but to a lot of people in a long distance relationship, it's like, wow, I get to see that person in the morning. I get to go to the person with that person at bed at night. I don't have to log into a computer to do that. You know what I mean, or whatever. That's one thing that I spoken to someone recently about. But like,
another one. Yeah, another one comes to mind is just, I think when my first day here, it was very sort of soon after I moved here, I said, I'm looking forward to having our first argument. I said I'm looking forward to actually this having, because we hadn't really sort of argued. We disagreed on Skype, but I said we've never had an argument, in person. We've swapped messages and we've been upset or whatever. But and she's like, "Are you mad? Are you mad? Why would you look forward to that?" And I said, because we've never had that. You've never had that real life argument, and it's something that you almost take for granted in relationships, because that's relationships. There's good and bad. There's brilliant times and there's tough times, and there's arguments and then there's harmony. So actually that first argument, and when it happened, I thought, "Oh, that's stupid. Shouldn't have said that."
Take it back.
Too late.
It's a male thing. It's okay. But Look, well, first, I really appreciate you actually coming on the, or it's 8:30, or it's past 9 o'clock here tonight now. But look, I really appreciate you actually coming on the call and sharing with the women, your background firstly, and opening up and just kind of giving women a different view of a man going through a long distance relationship. So I definitely appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Right. So
anytime. I've really enjoyed it. It's been nice to sort of look back and to sort of process, because a lot of these insights for me just sort of come up today as well. So thank you for having me.
No, I really appreciate it. And like I've spoken to ladies on the page, if they have any questions, to ask Will, I'm definitely happy enough to pass them on to Will and get him to answer those. And from the long distance relationship, just from a man's view, which is always good to hear. But look, again, I appreciate you coming on. And if you have any questions, I'll definitely shoot them through to you. But enjoy the rest of your day in Germany.
Yes, you too. You have a good evening in Sydney.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, thanks for your time again, Will, and chat soon for sure.
My pleasure.
Thanks, buddy.
Talk soon, mate.
See you, mate.
Bye.
Bye.